The grime covered his entire body, and the peculiar aura seemed to cling to him like a black mist. Wherever he passed, the plants would wither. He slowed to a stop only when he was out of the mausoleum of swords. Several Brahman C8 Meridians cultivators flew over from the distance. When they landed, they bowed simultaneously. Greetings, Sect Master, Sect Master. What happened? The remaining disciples were shocked when they saw Zhang Yuanshan's appearance. It was true that the righteous sect had been reduced to fleeing for their lives on a daily basis. But surely there was no need to go so far as to look like this. At the very least, he still had a few loyal disciples following him. Zhang Yuanshan lifted his head slowly. When he opened his eyes, they flashed coldly. He raised his right hand. Purple tendrils emerged from his hand. The tendrils connected to the palm seals as they scattered in all directions. Sect Master. The disciples could not react in time. Their necks were clenched by the peculiar palm seals. They were lifted up into the air, their feet leaving the ground. They regarded Zhang Yuanshan, their sect master, with fear in their eyes. They were all in a state of confusion. As time passed, they found it more and more difficult to breathe. The palm seals seemed to be tightening the grips. Shortly after, they breathed more rapidly. Sect Master, no, don't. Unfortunately, Zhang Yuanshan's face was devoid of emotion, and his eyes were cold. The disciples were lifted higher into the air by the tendrils of energy. The auras from the disciples slowly flowed into Zhang Yuanshan's body. Finally, Zhang Yuanshan opened his chapped lips and uttered a single word. Good. Crack, crack, crack. The palm seals suddenly clenched even harder. The disciples' necks snapped, and they no longer breathed. The life energy from their bodies was harvested by the tendrils of energy. The disciples' bodies began to wither and grew more hideous by the second. After the tendrils of energies were withdrawn, the withered corpses fell to the ground. At this moment, a deep voice rang in Zhang Yuanshan's ears. Don't waste time on these boring targets. Zhang Yuanshan lowered his head and nodded. All right. He held onto the rope and continued forward with the corpse in tow. He vanished among the trees in just a blink of an eye. After an unknown period of time, Zhang Yuanshan arrived at the side of a lake, still with the corpse behind him. He stopped as he gazed into the distance. He mumbled, Golden Court, Mountain. The commanding voice rang in Zhang Yuanshan's ears again. Continue on your way. Golden Court Mountain isn't your target. All right. Zhang Yuanshan pulled on the corpse and continued on his way. Strangely, the path he walked on was all the withered places. It seemed they were not random and were connected in a line. He eventually vanished at the end of the lake. Meanwhile, in the air above the forest around the lake, a white-clad figure looked in the direction where Zhang Yuanshan had disappeared and murmured. A puppet. Yi Tianxin looked at the surface of the lake before shifting her eyes to the direction of the Golden Court Mountain. A hint of hesitation could be seen on her face. The next day, grey clouds gathered in the skies. It was a gloomy day. The green jade altar was quiet and peaceful. A person stood at the center of the green jade altar. His eyes were closed. His hands were placed on the hilt of the sword before himself. Mr. Second, you shouldn't wait any longer. The righteous sect's territories belong to the Nether sect for a long time now. Zhang Yuanshan is also known for his cowardice. There's no way that he'll show up. A Nether sect disciple said with a bow. Yu Shangrong did not open his eyes. He smiled faintly and said, There's no rush. Thank you for the kind suggestion. Yu Shangrong said politely. At this moment, black patches began to appear among the huge trees several miles from the green jade altar. Mr. Second, it looks like it's going to rain. The sect master has asked me to make sure that you have a comfortable stay here. The disciple suddenly felt that the legendary sword devil was rather approachable. He decided that he should try to get on Yu Shangrong's good books. Who knew if they might even end up being friends? How proud would he feel being friends with the sword devil? The cultivation world would envy him. All of a sudden, Yu Shangrong said, Stand back. He did not look at the disciple. A sudden blast of energy suddenly shot out. Bam! The Nether sect's disciple was sent flying out of the green jade altar. As he was sent flying back, he finally realized his sect master was right. Mr. Second was truly a terrifying person with a kindly appearance. Meanwhile, Yu Shangrong looked at the forest in front of him. His longevity sword vibrated slightly in his hand. He was neither worried nor afraid. Instead, a faint smile could be seen on his face. A strong opponent. The longevity sword vibrated again. It was as though it had a tacit agreement with its owner. This is interesting. Yu Shangrong, naturally, liked a challenge. He would like to face a strong opponent. After crossing so many names off the list, he was getting slightly bored. Many of the so-called elites were so weak. The emergence of a peculiar energy wave before him had piqued his interest. The trees slowly withered as their leaves fell. At this moment, Yu Shangrong finally saw Zhang Yuenshen with his messy hair and dirty face as he pulled on a rope. He moved closer. In an instant, he had arrived near Yu Shangrong. It took him but a few breaths to reach below the green jade altar from the forest. This scene was peculiar. Imagine seeing a monster who was covered in a layer of grime while it pulled on a corpse. Yu Shangrong frowned slightly. At this moment, the person who dragged the corpse looked up. He said haltingly, "Yu Shang-rong, we, finally, meet." A hint of energy was laced in his words. Zhang Yuenshen. Yu Shangrong did not expect Zhang Yuenshen to turn out like this. He found it strange. "You want to kill me? Anyone whose name is on this list will be killed by my sword." Yu Shangrong was not intimidated by Zhang Yuenshen's appearance. He maintained a nonchalant attitude. "All right." Zhang Yuenshen spat the word out with great difficulties. His eyeballs were rolling. After that, he stood motionlessly as though he was preparing for something. Yu Shangrong sensed the peculiar wave of energies from Zhang Yuenshen. He smiled faintly and said, "Interesting." He raised the longevity sword with his right hand and flicked with his thumb. Zing! The longevity sword left its scabbard. Its sword left no trace in its wake. Several energy blades formed before Yu Shangrong. They circled around the longevity sword and dropped. He was merely testing the water. The sword skill was not at all powerful. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. The energy blades gathered together and shot toward Zhang Yuenshen. Zhang Yuenshen did not move from his spot. Boom, boom, boom. The energy blades struck Zhang Yuenshen's body and dissipated. However, he did not fall. An elite could learn about many things with just a single strike. Yu Shangrong looked down from his high vantage point and said with a disapproving tone, "Witchcraft. You have sharp eyes." Zhang Yuenshen felt the mighty power contained within his body. But still, he made no moves yet. He had 2 to 3 chances. Therefore, he had to seize the best chance to kill Yu Shangrong. The longevity sword returned and hovered before Yu Shangrong. He glanced at the longevity sword and said, "I hope that you'll satisfy my sword." He pushed away from the ground lightly and dove from the green jade altar that towered into the clouds. This was his skill, the snowy mountain. It was named for how the energy blades would fall unceasingly like the snow. They appeared as light as snowflakes but were bitingly cold. Yu Shangrong appeared unruffled. When he brought his sword down, the air around within dozens of meters began to stir, and energy blades appeared around him as he dove down. The energy blades of the snowy mountain along with the longevity sword stabbed Zhang Yuenshen. At this moment, a surge of black energy appeared from where Zhang Yuenshen stood. It rose into the air like black smoke and merged with the energy blades. Yu Shangrong's expression did not change. He felt the force within the black energy. He was slightly confused by it but did not dwell on the matter. Instead, he focused on attacking. Vigor contained within the black energy. He did not dwell upon the slight confusion in his mind. Instead, he focused on attacking. This was the attitude of a sword path elite. They might look ordinary when they were idle, but as soon as they made a move, it would be shocking. He closed the distance of several hundred meters and was upon his target in just a blink of an eye. He brought his sword down. Bam! Zhang Yuenshen did not dodge. Yu Shangrong's blade pierced Zhang Yuenshen's heart. Yu Shangrong's sword that was shrouded with powerful energy wreaked havoc through Zhang Yuenshen's extraordinary 8 meridians. An ordinary cultivator's life would end once their vital organs were injured. However, Zhang Yuenshen only narrowed his eyes and joined his palms together. A peculiar wave of energy surged out of his body like a tidal wave. Whiz! Yu Shangrong activated his 8-leaf avatar and stood atop his golden lotus. The avatar shrunk rapidly as the golden lotus spun before his avatar was sent reeling when the peculiar energy landed on the golden lotus. Boom! Yu Shangrung's avatar disappeared. He hovered in the air in the distance as he looked at Zhang Yuanshan. He murmured, "Interesting." Zhang Yuanshan's palms trembled slightly, and he calmed himself down. It seemed like he was not satisfied with this attack. He discovered that he had underestimated the Sword Devil's strength. He said in a croaky voice, resting. I've challenged many elites in the past from the 9 provinces to the 4 seas. Naturally, there were a few who were quite a challenge. You seem to be one of them now, Yu Shangrong said as he recalled what had just taken place. If he was not experienced in combat and had underestimated his opponent, the peculiar energy would have landed squarely on his chest. Everyone knew that 100 Tribulations Insight avatars possessed high defense abilities. However, very few knew that the greatest defense of the 100 Tribulations avatar didn't lie with its body but the Golden Lotus. Yu Shangrung's Golden Lotus had blocked Zhang Yuanshan's attack. Zhang Yuanshan smacked his chest, dislodging the longevity sword. Then, he held the sword in his hand and tried to break it with his right hand. Bam! A loud noise reverberated in the air as the longevity sword flew out of Zhang Yuanshan's grip toward Yu Shangrong. Yu Shangrong raised his right hand, as though it was sentient. The longevity sword flew right into his grasp. Trying to break my sword with your bare hands? You're dreaming. The longevity sword was one of the best heaven-grade weapons. After all, it had reached perfect harmony with Yu Shangrong a long time ago. It had never been inferior to any weapon that it had met. It was impossible to be broken with one's bare hands. Whoosh! Black energy rose again from Zhang Yuanshan. If one looked closely, one would be able to see that the black energy was actually a dark purple. It was so dark that it seemed black. The plants and trees within several hundred meters of Zhang Yuanshan began to wither. Yu Shangrong was certain that Zhang Yuanshan's body was no longer that of a human. Otherwise, even if Zhang Yuanshan did not die, he would have been severely injured by his snowy mountain technique or longevity sword earlier. However, Zhang Yuanshan was clearly unaffected by his attack. The black energy formed a huge circle that spanned several hundred meters. On the green jade altar, the Nether sect's disciples could not suppress their curiosities. They walked up to the edge and watched the battle. The two opponents faced each other from a distance. Whiz! Yu Shangrong activated his avatar. The 100-foot avatar was almost as tall as the green jade altar. The Nether sect's disciples were thoroughly shocked by this sight. The shining golden avatar was extremely intimidating. BZZT, BZZT, BZZT. Yu Shangrung's longevity sword vibrated intensely. With a calm expression on his face, he shot toward the horizon, appearing in front of his avatar. An awe-inspiring scene unfolded before everyone's watchful eyes. The avatar's arms seemed to be moving. The Nether sect's disciples were confused. They had never seen nor heard about avatars with moving body parts. The longevity sword was wrapped by a powerful energy, and a massive energy blade appeared. The avatar held the energy blade between its hands. This is my original sword skill, merging my avatar and my sword. I haven't thought of a name for it yet. Swoosh! The avatar brought its arms down. The huge energy blade slashed at Zhang Yuanshan. At the critical juncture, Zhang Yuanshan swung the rope in his hand, lifting the corpse up. He had used the corpse against the energy blade. All of a sudden, the withered corpse suddenly opened its eyes, and powerful energy surged out of it. Meanwhile, a black avatar in an upside-down position clashed with the energy blade. Boom! One of the Nether sect's disciples on the green jade altar exclaimed. Fiend Zen. However, this was clearly more than just Fiend Zen. Yu Shangrong frowned as he retreated with his avatar. He knows how to defend himself using his golden lotus. It seemed like he had been too careless. Zhang Yuanshan had copied his move. As he retreated, he saw the corpse's eyes were still open and it had joined its palm together. Die! Zhang Yuanshan cried out. This was his second chance. The black avatar flew out swiftly with the lotus in tow. Nobody had ever witnessed such a technique before. Where could they have seen someone battling by tying a corpse to the end of the rope and to use it as a weapon? Don't disregard me, Zhang Yuanshan said stiltedly as he stomped his feet. shooting up into the air like a fired arrow. The corpse flew along with him. Along with the avatar, they formed a vertical formation. Missed a second. The Nether sect's disciples cried out in worry. Yu Shangrong was sent flying back at an extremely fast speed. In just an instant, his figure could no longer be seen from the green jade altar. Zhang Yuanshan's arms turned black. The black energy and Kong Yuan's corpse launched wave after wave of attacks. Zhang Yuanshan's throat made some gurgling noise. It seemed like he was laughing. 3 beams of energy were enough to shatter Yu Shangrong's avatar. At this moment, a voice rang out, "Second senior brother." Then, a body of water fell from the skies like a waterfall and rained down on Yu Shangrong's 100 Tribulations Insight avatar. The beams of energy landed on the incredible body of water. Above the falling water, a female avatar could be seen. It was like an ice goddess as it radiated with energy. The amorous hoop could be seen dancing in the body of water. Within 1.00 meters, all the buildings were completely destroyed in just a moment. Blue Wave's technique, 6th junior sister. Yu Shangrong looked up. He glanced at her before he said forcefully, "Stand back." He had already regained his footing at this time. He shot toward the opposite direction. His avatar had disappeared. Zhang Yuanshan had a murderous expression on his face as he said in his creepy voice, Curse you." The newcomer was none other than Yi Tianxin. She had done everything she could to block the attack from Kong Yuan's corpse. However, there was still Zhang Yuanshan to contend with. Zhang Yuanshan's arms grew bigger and his muscles bulged. The third chance. Everyone must die. Yi Tianxin recalled her amorous hoop. She took Yu Shangrong's advice and swiftly retreated with her avatar. Second senior brother. He has a grand shaman supporting him. The enter and return 3 souls should be able to deal with it. As Yi Tianxin projected her voice to Yu Shangrong, she felt an energy closing in on her. Suddenly, she discovered that not only Zhang Yuanshan's arms grew bigger, but it seemed like he had grown tentacles. Some of the tentacles were already upon her. Boom, boom, boom. The tentacles slammed against Yi Tianxin's energy wall violently. Yu Shangrong shot toward Yi Tianxin with his sword in hand at lightning speed. I slay fiend Zen cultivators for breakfast. BZZT. A fan-shaped energy shot out from the longevity sword. Yu Shangrong wielded the longevity sword with both hands and swung it downward. At this moment, the terrifying power of the longevity sword seemed to be fully displayed. The energy seemed to cut off the black golden lotus avatar. Bam! The avatar cracked. Kong Yuan's eyes widened. His palms remained joined together when he saw the black avatar being cut open. The impact of that attack sent him reeling back. The rope that was tied around him snapped at this moment. He continued to fly backward. Yu Shangrong did not even deign to spare a glance at Kong Yuan. He knew Kong Yuan was just a corpse, a puppet that was being controlled. He looked at Yi Tianxin behind him, who was currently being attacked by the tentacles, and said, "Junior sister, defend with your golden lotus." Oh! Yu Shangrong's eyes gleamed at this moment. He began to fly out at blinding speed toward Zhang Yuanshan. Meanwhile, Yi Tianxin's avatar had retreated. Her golden lotus bloomed and kept the tentacles at bay. In front of Zhang Yuanshan, there were many tentacles. They were like a thicket of vines that kept whipping at the air. The tentacles were shrouded in purple energy. When Zhang Yuanshan saw that Kong Yuan was sent flying, he instinctively looked up at Yu Shangrong. The sword devil. Yu Shangrong had his back toward the grey sky and he was charging toward Zhang Yuanshan in the air at a 45-degree angle. With every step he took, a ripple would appear under his feet. The golden ripples seemed to distort space itself. As he continued to move, his body seemed to turn blurry. In fact, everything in the surroundings seemed out of focus. It was as though everything was submerged in water. It lent a surreal quality to the surroundings. This was the sword skill Yu Shangrong was famous for, the return and enter 3 souls. The 3 souls referred to the first sword, the origin radiance, which was the chi of great purity and the sun. The second soul is the majestic spirit, the transformation of yin chi. The third soul is the nether essence, the impurities of yin chi. Everyone who cultivated possessed 3 souls. The origin radiance is the nascent divinity. This was where the nascent divinity tribulation realm derived its name from. The return and enter 3 souls. 3 swords and 3 paths attacked at the same time. The 3 swords merged as one to sever the 3 souls, thereby obliterating the target's body and soul. Yu Shangrong did not merely have 3 figures. His clones seemed to possess avatars of their own as well. 3 golden lotuses descended from the sky. This scene far exceeded Zhang Yuanshan's expectations. His eyes widened in horror as he watched the 3 clones merged into one. Ba Ma! Help me! A deep voice rang in Zhang Yuanshan's ears. I've told you that you only have 2 to 3 chances. This 3rd chance will cost you your life. Silence descended on the entire place at this moment. Zhang Yuanshan wanted to pull on the rope and defend himself with Kong Yuan's corpse. Unfortunately, Kong Yuan was long gone. He laughed maniacally upon discovering this. Forget it. Forget it. At this moment, the longevity sword pierced Zhang Yuanshan's body. His body trembled violently as he continued to laugh maniacally. It felt as though his soul had been pierced as well. However, he did not stop laughing. The sound of his laughter traveled far all the way to the green jade altar. Currently, the battle could no longer be seen from the green jade altar. All that could be heard was this maniacal laughter. Upon hearing this, the Nether sect's disciples shivered in fear. After a moment, they heard a shout from afar. I've been a coward all my life. Today, I Zhang Yuanshan will embrace death like an old friend. Zhang Yuanshan was in the center as his energy spilled into the surroundings. The tentacles whipped around even more violently. This was his true 3rd chance. The ultimate move that Ba Ma had planted in him. Sacrificial offering, a peculiar voice said. Zhang Yuanshan shouted, even if I have to die, I'll drag you along with me. Once the sacrificial offering was completed, the tentacles shot toward Yu Shangrong and Yi Tianxin in a frenzy. The entire place seemed to be filled with tentacles. Yi Tianxian had already retreated far away as she repelled the tentacles. Meanwhile, Yu Shangrong was still at the center of the fight, when he saw the tentacles that seemed to come at him from all directions. He swung his sword fiercely. His sword moved like the wind and merely left vague shadows in its wake as his slashes rained down like a storm. There were no energy blades. The red shining blade was all that could be seen moving back and forth. A spherical energy formed around him at this moment. Yu Shangrong's expression darkened. For some reason, the scene of his master training him in sword skills surfaced in his mind. He was told to practice his swordplay under the trees in autumn. And he had to slash at all the falling leaves. During summer, he would be training under the rain and would have to remain dry. In the winter, he was told to train under the snow, and he had to dodge all the snowflakes. He lost count of the number of wooden swords he broke in the process. He would receive a good beating whenever he broke a sword. His master said that a true sword path elite would love his own sword and would never allow his sword to be easily destroyed. It was only when he managed to keep his wooden sword intact that his master granted him the longevity sword. The longevity sword bore the blessings of a long life. This was the best gift for the inhabitants of the nobleman country who had short lifespans. This sword was everything to Yu Shangrong. He had become one with his sword. If you want to kill your opponent, just swing your sword forcefully. Lu Zhou's advice appeared in Yu Shangrong's mind, and he swung his sword at a greater speed. The tentacles that approached were all cut, and the purple energy was kept at bay by the sword shadows. From afar, Yi Tianxin was dumbstruck when she witnessed this scene. She knew that her second senior brother was powerful, but she did not expect him to be so powerful to this extent. Then, she looked at the purple energy that permeated the air and the tentacles lashing around before she tossed her amorous hoop out. The amorous hoop plunged into the sea of tentacles and released a burst of energy. The blue waves technique slowed the advances of the tendrils. At this moment, Yi Tianxin shouted, "Second senior brother." Yu Shangrong made a noise of acknowledgement. His 100-foot avatar shot toward the horizon as it increased in size. Energy blades spread out like the petals of a lotus in the air. Boom! The tentacles were severed by the countless energy blades. At the same time, the golden lotus under Yu Shangrong's avatar kept the tentacles at bay like lotus leaves. With the golden lotus in the center, the longevity sword flew out and continued cutting the tentacles. With a casual glance, it looked like a vortex had appeared. The energy of the tentacles seemed to be immediately reduced by a huge margin. Yi Tianxin felt the pressure around her lift at once. She recalled her avatar, somersaulted in the air before she looked at the scene before her incredulously. Is this the sword devil? Yu Shangrong did not hold back as he wielded and swung his sword. The rapid expansion of his avatar, coupled with the movements of his sword that seemed to form a vortex, kept the tentacles at bay. Gradually, the tentacles began to dwindle and fall in numbers. Everything was silent again. Yu Shangrong stood within his avatar. He extended his arms as he tried to control his avatar. The 100 Tribulations Insight avatar required too much energy to maintain. It was rare for a cultivator to maintain 100 Tribulations Insight avatar for such a long time. Yi Tianxin was still in shock. After a long while, the purple energy finally vanished. Zhang Yuanshan's body was nowhere to be seen. Yu Shangrong pulled his arms back and fisted his hands. His avatar vanished. The massive golden lotus paused slightly. Yu Shangrong looked at the golden lotus. The 8 golden and shining lotus leaves spun at a uniform speed. There was a faint sheen of purple on the lotus leaves. With an unbothered expression on his face, he moved his hands, and his Danshan sea of qi surged. Close. The golden lotus vanished. Yu Shangrong hovered in midair as he surveyed the land beneath him with a thoughtful expression on his face. The green jade altar had always been a tranquil place. However, at this moment, all tranquility was lost as the place was destroyed. The rock slabs on the altar were cracked, and the area under the altar was wrecked. If the two opponents did not move their battle further away, the green jade altar would have been completely destroyed. The Nether sect's disciples had difficulties calming down witnessing this, although they could see the battle between Yu Shangrong and the monster. Based on the sounds that rang from afar, they could tell the battle was fierce and terrifying. After a long while, the cacophony of noises finally died down. The Nether sect's disciples leaped off the green jade altar. The altar was messy and chaotic. There were holes riddled on the ground as far as the eyes could see. They flew to the distance, following the trail of wreckage that was left in the wake of the battle. Shortly after, they arrived at the epicenter of the battle where the fighting had been the fiercest. Apart from a huge and deep area on the uneven ground, they did not see ant bodies. The trees, grasses, and plants in the vicinity that were full of life had all withered. What happened here? Everyone looked around their surroundings fearfully. There's more than one monster. I saw that person fling another person who was tied to a rope. It looked like a dried corpse, someone said before a retching noise could be heard. It seems like a puppeteering and witchcraft technique. This bodes ill for Mr. Second. I'm afraid. No way. Mr. Second's cultivation base is profound. There's no way he'd be defeated so easily. In this world, there's bound to be someone who's stronger than you. There's nothing certain in the world. The sect master once said that the power of an individual will always be inferior to the power of a group. When the disciples recalled the black avatar and the purple and black tentacles they saw on the green jade altar, they shuddered despite the warm temperature. The disciples were still busy speculating among themselves when a small purple circle rose into the sky nearby. It seemed like a cloud of purple smoke that resembled the shape of Ba Wu. The mount. It looked like a fox. Upon seeing this, the disciples immediately retreated in shock. The seemingly formed from energy Ba Wu said with a deep voice, Yu Shangrong must die. Then, the witchcraft circle disappeared along with the purple energy. Return. What do we do now? Do we just leave the green jade altar as it is? We should report this to the sect master first. ... Ding. Killed a target. Reward. 2.000 merit points. Lu Zhou was in the midst of contemplating something when the notification sounded, causing him to frown slightly. Based on his previous experience, he knew killing a 1 to 5 leaf target was worth 1.000 merit points. Killing a 6 or 8 leaf target was worth 1.500 merit points. Why was he suddenly rewarded with 2.000 merit points? Lu Zhou slowly rose to his feet. Remembering Yu Shangrong, Yu Zhenghai and Si Wuya had not been captured yet. It was far too early to consider their return to the pavilion. Therefore, their actions would not give him any rewards. Moreover, his current disciples were not capable of this. The only person capable of killing such an elite target could only be Yu Shangrong. A frown could be seen on Lu Zhou's face as he continued thinking to himself. 9-leaf, then. He shook his head, dismissing his thoughts. Although Yu Shangrong was strong and profound, it was impossible for him to kill a 9-leaf target. Moreover, where could Yu Shangrong find a 9-leaf target? Is it possible that someone came to the same conclusion as I did? Did someone also think about severing the golden lotus to defeat an 8-leaf cultivator? Lu Zhou recalled Jiang Aijian's words about his experience about reading about this matter during the discussion about the 9-leaf stage with Leng Luo and Pan Lishan the other day. He knew he was not the only one in the world who was trying to figure out the 9-leaf state. Whether it was Yun Tianluo, Gong Yuandu, or the Great Yan's imperial family, they were all trying to figure out the 9-leaf stage. Moreover, apart from Great Yan, there were Lu Lan, Ruli, Kagong, and the other nations. There were plenty of cultivators in the world. It was impossible that nobody had thought about or tried to figure out the 9-leaf stage. All of a sudden, Lu Zhou said, "Is anyone here?" A female disciple appeared inside the Great Hall. Pavilion Master, summon Jiang Aijian over. Understood. Recently, Jiang Aijian had been hiding in the Evil Sky Pavilion. News of his death had spread far and wide. Naturally, there were many in the palace who were skeptical of this news. It did not matter. Jiang Aijian had an extensive information network. Lu Zhou thought it was time to make Jiang Aijian earn his keep. Currently, news of Jiang Aijian's death had spread all around the place. On a peak 100 miles north of the Green Jade Altar, the sun shone through the clouds on the forest, painting the forest with a golden light. Greetings, second senior brother. Yi Tianxing respectfully and formally greeted Yu Shangrong as she stood behind him. There's no need for such formalities. Sixth junior sister, Yu Shangrong was carrying his longevity sword. He did not turn around. Instead, he was looking at the setting sun. Strangely, the setting sun looked more beautiful and captivating to him than it ever did before. After all, Great Yan was never short of such idyllic sceneries and mountains. Second senior brother. Are you alright? Yi Tianxin was still having difficulty wrapping her mind around what she had seen. The rays of the setting sun fell on Yu Shangrong's body. He did not move as he softly said, "I'm all right. Your sword path has widened my horizons." Second senior brother, Yi Tianxin praised him. However, upon recalling the earlier scene, Yu Shangrong shook his head. "It's too insignificant to mention. I heard that you've rejoined the Evil Sky Pavilion. Second senior brother, I wonder if it's true." Yi Tianxin rarely bothered herself with the cultivation world. She had been cultivating in isolation all this while. She would only go out to run the occasional errand. When she had first heard about this news, she was skeptical. Yu Shangrong smiled faintly and said, So, the hit list. It's true as well?" Yi Tianxin asked in surprise. At this moment, Yu Shangrong finally turned around. His gaze fell on Yi Tianxin. Yu Shangrong's gaze made Yi Tianxin feel nervous and tense. Ever since she left the Evil Sky Pavilion and became the derived Moon Palace master whom everyone revered, the sixth elite on the black roll, and the jade-faced Shura whose name alone struck fear in those who heard it, she had never felt as nervous as this. Yu Shangrong nodded again. Yi Tianxin was in awe. The hit list that was circulating in the cultivation was filled with elites. They were all impressive people. And yet, they all died by her second senior brother's sword. Just how strong was he in his techniques? A gentle smile could be seen on Yu Shangrong's face as he asked. Sixth junior sister, didn't master forgive you? Yi Tianxin was taken aback. Speechless. Her expression turned unnatural. She did not know how to answer the question. Yu Shangrong had no intention of forcing an answer out of her. You don't have to answer me if you don't want to. In the end, Yi Tianxin replied, I'm afraid that I won't be able to return to the Evil Sky Pavilion ever again. Yu Shangrong said, you have a long life ahead of you. Just be yourself. You're right, second senior brother. Yi Tianxin nodded. What plans do you have after this? Yu Shangrong asked. Yi Tianxin did not answer immediately. Instead, she walked to the edge of the peak and looked down at the forest. She sighed softly with a lost look in her eyes. I don't know, I'm like a headless fly. She suddenly felt that she had said too much, so she stopped talking. Yu Shangrong said, If you don't have a goal now, just find a new one. Yi Tianxin was stunned. Her thoughts were not as simple as her second senior brother's. However, life was often not complicated. The more one worried, the more one would be restricted. Moreover, it was not like she had no goals. She was just not determined enough to pursue her goals. After a while, she asked, "Are you returning to the Evil Sky Pavilion after this?" Second senior brother. No. Yu Shangrong shook his head. After I'm done with the hit list, I'll head north. Where are you going? Brackish Mountain. Yi Tianxin asked, perplexed. Brackish Mountain, where's that? She had never heard of such a place. Therefore, she concluded it must be some remote mountain village. Yu Shangrong replied honestly, "It's my hometown. It's a place that's only a shadow of its former self. There's nothing but coldness and darkness there." Yi Tianxin was even more confused. She wondered why Yu Shangrong would describe his hometown as cold and dark. At the very least, he had a hometown to return to. The Furfik had nowhere to return to. Upon thinking about this, she asked with a sigh, "Second senior brother, do you blame me? I've heard about what happened." Yu Shangrong said. Yi Tianxin was happy with his answer. It seemed like her senior brother did not blame her. She suddenly remembered her conversation with her seventh junior brother, Si Wuya, and asked, "Second senior brother, do you believe that someone in this world can live for 2.00 years?" Yu Shangrong was slightly taken aback. This question had an edge to it when it was directed to a nobleman. After all, for noblemen, it was already a luxury being able to live to 1.00. Let alone 2.00. Why, do you believe it? Second senior brother, I've been looking for an item all this time. It's called Cheng Huang. There are many that said that anyone who rides on Cheng Huang will live for 2.00 years. Despite looking for it for so long, my search has borne no fruit. Yi Tianxin replied. If Yi Tianxin had told anyone else about this, they would have persuaded her to stop her futile search. However, Yu Shangrong was different. He firmly believed one needed to have goals to achieve before one's death. He smiled faintly and replied, "Don't lose your determination, and keep searching. What if the chances are slim? It's better than none." Yi Tianxin was speechless. It was true, a slim chance was better than none. She bowed. "Thank you for your counsel, second senior brother." Yu Shangrong nodded. "The sun is setting. You should head back. Junior sister. Take care, senior brother." Yi Tianxin bowed again before she turned around and left. Gradually, darkness descended. Yu Shangrong did not move. He looked on silently as the sun set behind the mountain. He gripped his longevity sword tightly as he stood riveted to the spot. Bam! A crack appeared in the rock. The longevity sword was wedged between it. Yu Shangrong sat down cross-legged as he joined his palms together. Whiz! His 100 Tribulations Insight avatar appeared. However, its size was not huge. In fact, it was only half his height. He had intentionally made his avatar as small as it could be. He raised one palm, facing up, before his avatar hovered above his palm. It resembled a golden statue on a golden lotus. However, the golden lotus was no longer purely gold. Instead, it was mottled with purple spots that seemed to be spreading. It seemed as though the purple spots were pest had infested the lotus leaf. Yu Shangrong circulated his primal chi. His golden lotus spun rapidly and shone brightly. Whiz! After a round of treatment, the purple spots merely showed signs of slowing down after being suppressed by his powerful cultivation base. They did not disappear. Yu Shangrong frowned slightly. He did not achieve this victory easily. In fact, it was slightly difficult compared to his other battles, even when he sparred with his eldest senior brother in Radiant Cloud Forest back then. He was not forced to use all of his might. In his opinion, Zhang Yuenshen was only the sect master of a second-rate sect. Someone cowardly who stubbornly clung to life. He should have been able to deal with Zhang Yuenshen with just a single sword strike. Who knew Zhang Yuenshen would give him so much difficulty? A grand shaman from Lulan. Yu Shangrong muttered to himself and scoffed. "You're lucky that you encountered me and not." He did not finish his sentence. He recalled his avatar, and with a push of his feet, he flew northward. After the battle on the Green Jade altar ended, the Nether sect's disciples wrote about it to their sect master, Yu Zhenghai, who was in Yi province. Notify the other branches. Just say that things bode ill for Mr. Second after his fight with Zhang Yuenshen. At the very least, this was what they thought based on their observation. Their words could be interpreted in many different ways that all seemed to mean the same thing. Yu Shangrong could be hurt, gravely injured, missing, died. There were many ways to interpret their words. That was how a new rumor began to spread in the cultivation world. The major sects of the cultivation world sighed in relief. Public opinion was powerful enough to melt metal. When there were enough people spreading the rumor, there was no longer any need to verify its authenticity. As time passed, the rumor became more and more exaggerated. Every storyteller would add their own twist to it. In the battle on the Green Jade Altar, the Sword Devil, Yu Shangrong, couldn't defeat Zhang Yuenshen and was grievously wounded. Why did the cowardly rat, Zhang Yuenshen, suddenly attack? The Sword Devil had been too full of himself. In the end, he met his demise. The era of the evil Sky Pavilion is about to come to an end. Since Yu Shangrong did not appear since then, it added to the credibility of the rumor. Under the cover of night, in a graveyard, a black figure hovered in the air. Its feet were only half a foot above the ground. It flew around the graveyard at this low altitude as its body emitted a dense purple fume. The sound of soil loosening rang in the air. The black figure flew back to its starting point and landed on the ground. He nodded with satisfaction. He held 2 ropes with a single hand. At the end of the rope was Kong Yuan, who was still dressed in his monk's robes. On the other end was Zhang Yuenshen, who was dressed in his Taoist robes. The witchcraft spell has taken effect. Yu Shangrong will vanish from this world. Next, it'll be the evil Sky Pavilion's turn. Junior sister, I will drag the entire evil Sky Pavilion down to accompany you in the other world. 7 days later, in the Great Hall of the evil Sky Pavilion, Lu Zhou had been meditating on the heavenly writing scrolls for quite some time. His extraordinary power was now completely replenished. He was thinking about the 9-leaf stage when Mingxi Yin walked into the hall with a letter in his hand. Meanwhile, little Yuanair was practicing her control over the Nirvana sash inside the Great Hall. 4th senior brother, look at this. I can mold the Nirvana sash into various shapes now. Master taught me. That's great. Mingxi Yin gave a perfunctory reply and walked swiftly into the Great Hall. Master, a letter from Jiang Ijian. He opened the letter as he spoke. Jiang Ijian was efficient indeed compared to the old men from the Old Age Pavilion who were only skilled in bragging and flattery. He had only been gone for 7 days. But there was already a result. Mingxi Yin read, Old Senior, there's no need to investigate the matter you've entrusted me to investigate. The entire cultivation world is saying that things don't look well for the Sword Devil after losing to Zhang Yuenshen. However, the veracity of the rumor has yet to be confirmed. I'll try to verify the rumor as fast as I can. The other thing I want to report to you is that the Nether sect has conquered Yi province. Wei Zhuoyan is an imposter. After all, he doesn't have the power to quell the disturbance in Yi province. There's more to say, but I'm running out of space. Please turn to the back of the letter. Upon reading the last sentence, Mingxi Yin frowned. What's he playing at? There's more on the back of the letter. I didn't notice anything when I opened the letter. In any case, Mingxi Yin cleared his throat and continued reading. With rumors of Golden Court Mountain's barrier disappearing, Mr. Second's unknown state, and your approaching great limit, you should be careful of the noble path forming an alliance. It's been a long time since I've penned a letter to you. Old Senior, if I can get another good sword as compensation, I'll surely be more motivated. Ha ha ha. Mingxi Yin's expression turned stiff when he read the end of the letter. Only the first part of the letter was useful. He felt as though he should not have even bothered to read out the second part of the letter. Mingxi Yin said to Lu Zhou, rumors. These are all rumors. With second senior brother's cultivation base, there's no way Zhang Yuenshen would be able to even touch a strand of senior brother's hair. Moreover, Zhang Yuenshen is nothing but a coward. However, Lu Zhou did not share the same opinion. Based on the reward he obtained, the matter seemed more complicated. He was only certain that Zhang Yuenshen had died. However, he was not sure if Yu Shangrong was unharmed. After all, up until now, none of his disciples had died, so he was not sure if the system would even notify him of his disciples' deaths. Lu Zhou slowly rose to his feet. He stroked his beard and paced as he said, "Your second senior brother prefers to act alone. He doesn't like to write letters." "You're right, Master. He's a grown man. He should know better to report on his well-being every once in a while." Ming Shi-yin said, "Let him be." Despite Lu Zhou's words, he truly did not wish for any harm to come to Yu Shangrong. If he were to lose such a great helper, he would definitely have trouble coming to terms with it. After a while, Ming Shi-yin bluntly asked, "Master, what should we do about eldest senior brother? He has conquered Yi province now. Clearly, he plans to against the imperial family." Lu Zhou did not answer Ming Shi-yin. "I'd like to capture that rascal as well and ask him about what happened in the past." The problem was, things were not so simple. The Nether sect had many branches and hidden bases. After his battle with Yu Shangrong in Radiant Cloud Forest, nobody knew where Yu Zhenghai was hiding at the moment. Yi province was huge. It would be like looking for a needle in a haystack. Moreover, the Nether sect had expanded its forces from tens of thousands of members to hundreds of thousands of members in a short time. There were also the 4 great protectors who were all skilled in their own right. They also had Si Wuya as the brain of the operation. Lu Zhou stroked his beard as he pondered this. He had never met Yu Zhenghai since he transmigrated here. They had several close encounters. But that was it. The sect master of the greatest fiend sect under the heavens ran away quicker than most. Am I that terrifying? Have Jiang Ijian pay more attention to Yi province. If there's time, I'll go to Yi province and personally capture that rascal. Yes, Master. After saying this, Ming Shi-yin's eyes darted around as he said, "Master, with the rumors going around, people are going to assume we're a pushover. I ask for permission to descend the mountain and beat those people." At this moment, Duan Musheng walked in with his overlord spear in hand. "You're thinking of playing outside, aren't you?" "Of course not," Ming Shi-yin said. Ming Shi-yin was about to expound on his loyalty when the heavy thud of someone falling to their knees rang in the air. "Greetings, Master." Ming Shi-yin frowned. He turned around and saw Zhu Honggong kneeling on the ground. "This won't do. I really must find some time to give old 8th a good beating." "Greetings, 4th senior brother, 3rd senior brother, 4th senior brother. You look more handsome compared to yesterday." Zhu Honggong boldly kowtowed as he greeted Ming Shi-yin and Duan Musheng. Ming Shi-yin, quote. He did not reply, but he thought to himself, "Oh, well, I'll forgive you this once." Zhu Honggong walked up to them and said, "Master, I have a report to make." "Let's hear it." "I received a letter from the traitor, Si Wuya. He thinks that I'm still as easily manipulated as before. He has no idea that under your meticulous care and guidance, I've become extremely smart," Zhu Honggong said, not forgetting to flatter Lu Zhou while he was at it. Cut to the chase. "Read the letter." Duan Musheng raised his overlord spear. Zhu Honggong opened the letter at once and read, "Dear Master, allow me to pay my respect to you." Duan Musheng walked up to Zhu Honggong suddenly and grabbed his collar, lifting him up from the ground. "That's about enough." Tears streamed down Zhu Honggong's face. "It's true, that's what the letter says. Quote. Enough." Lu Zhou frowned. Duan Musheng hastily let Zhu Honggong go. The two of them kneeled on the ground, worried their master would take his anger out on them. Lu Zhou glanced at both of them, feeling too lazy to reprimand them. With a wave of his hand, he picked the letter up with his energy and brought it to his hands. Even if Zhu Honggong was the bravest man in the world, he would never dare to stop the letter from flying toward his master. Lu Zhou read the contents of the letter. As it turned out, the letter contained information about what happened between Yu Shangrong and Zhang Yuanshan. Si Wuya seemed to have the answer to the matter of Yu Shangrong killing a high-reward target. However, Lu Zhou was still worried. Ming Shi-yin asked curiously, "Master, what does it say?" Lu Zhou waved his hand and tossed the letter away. Ming Shi-yin caught the letter and read it. His brows knitted as he read the letter. Second senior brother fought Zhang Yuanshan on the Green Jade altar. Zhang Yuanshan was the sacrificial offering of the Grand Shaman. Ba Ma, things aren't looking good for second senior brother. Ba Ma is planning to make a move against the evil Sky Pavilion to avenge Mo Li. Master, this traitor, Si Wuya, cannot be trusted. Fourth senior brother is right. We shouldn't believe the words of a traitor. Lu Zhou stood up and looked at the three of them as he said. Si Wuya should be telling the truth. After all, he had the 2.000 merit points he was rewarded with to confirm some of Si Wuya's words. Ming Shiyin and Zhu Honggong did not dwell on the matter anymore. Since their master had said so, there was no need to think otherwise. Both of them nodded and said in unison, "You're wise, master." Duan Musheng held the letter in his hand and read it. He said, quote, "Ba Ma is the greatest witchcraft genius in Lu Lan. Throughout the years, Lu Lan's strength has improved tremendously thanks to Ba Ma. What should we do about second senior brother?" The three of them appeared worried. Moreover, even Jiang Aijian's letter spoke about the rumors that were spreading. Zhu Honggong said, "Master, I have another report to make." "Let's hear it." Many low-rank cultivators appeared at the foot of Golden Court Mountain yesterday. I saw that they were trying to make a scene, so I chased him away. Zhu Honggong said with a smile, clearly waiting to be praised. Make a scene? This dimwit is spouting nonsense again. Who would dare to make a scene near Golden Court Mountain? Ming Shiyin frowned and said, "Dimwit, didn't you ask them what they were doing?" Zhu Honggong scratched his head. "They were saying something strange has happened, and they wanted our help. But we're not running a charity here." Ming Shiyin secretly rejoiced in Zhu Honggong's misfortune. Old Eighth, I don't think you're aware of Master's new style of doing things." However, he was surprised to see his master did not seem to be angered. Lu Zhou paced back and forth. The withering of the plants should have something to do with witchcraft. Ba Ma was probably plotting something again. When he recalled the content of Si Wuya's letter, he began to worry about Yu Shangrong. If this were to happen in the past, there was no need for him to worry about Yu Shangrong with Yu Shangrong's cultivation base. However, something felt different this time. As Yu Shangrong's master, how could he sit back and do nothing? When Ming Shiyin saw his master deep in thought, he knew what his master was thinking. He bowed and said, "I'm willing to investigate this incident." Zhu Honggong bowed as well. "I'm willing to accompany fourth senior brother down the mountain to investigate this matter." Lu Zhou's gaze fell on both his disciples. If this had happened in the past, he would not have hesitated to delegate this task to them. However, he had to consider Ba Ma, the Grand Shaman, who was behind all this. Even Yu Shangrong had a difficult time dealing with Ba Ma. Would it not be akin to sending Ming Shiyin and Zhu Honggong to their deaths if he allowed them to take on this mission? After muttering to himself for a moment, Lu Zhou said, "There's no need to rush. Since he's coming at the Evil Sky Pavilion, he'll come sooner or later." When the three disciples heard this, they said in unison, "You're wise, master." 10 days passed by in a blink of an eye. Nothing out of the ordinary happened. On the 11th night, in a graveyard in a forest, a black figure flew, weaving in and out of the trees. Many corpses could be seen crawling out of the graves, forming groups as they moved forward slowly. From above, they looked like ants. Behind the mass of black bodies, a small black carriage flew swiftly at a low altitude. Two men pulled the carriage. A stocky figure stood atop the carriage. His eyes shone with a green light. He looked at his troops with a pleased expression. These were his troops that he had tirelessly gathered over several days and nights. He said in a deep voice, "Evil Sky Pavilion, I hope you'll be satisfied this time." Swoosh! The black carriage shot past the tops of the black figures, taking the lead in front of the troops of corpses. Meanwhile, in the sky nearly 10.000 miles northwest from Great Yan's divine capital, a green-robed figure could be seen hovering above a few snow-capped mountains. He surveyed his surroundings. There seemed to be only trees and snow as far as the eyes could see. There did not seem to be any signs of humans at all. Snowflakes dropped on Yu Shangrong as the wind ruffled his hair. He did not bother to repel the snowflakes. Flecks of white from the snowflakes could be seen on his brows and hair. Yu Shangrong stood with his arms crossed. The longevity sword on his back was gently vibrating as though it could sense something. Against the wind and the snow, he smiled faintly as he said, "I'm home." He took a step forward in the air. With lightning movements, he appeared several hundred feet away. In the next instant, he appeared on the top of the tallest tree. He seemed to be in a slight daze as he looked at the slightly sunken land ahead of him. It was a small plain that extended for dozens of miles and was surrounded by mountains. It was completely covered by snow. Under the snow, vines, trees, parts of collapsed walls could vaguely be seen. Things remained the same while the people have changed. Yu Shangrong tapped with the tip of his foot. Crack! The snow on the tree slid off. The snowless tall tree now stood out among the other snow-covered trees. Yu Shangrong flew forward. When he was halfway to his destination, he gave a muffled grunt and swayed. He paused in the air. He lowered his arms and joined his palms together. Whiz! A miniature 100 Tribulations Insight avatar appeared. He moved the avatar that resembled a golden statue to the top of his palm as he looked at the golden lotus under the avatar. The purple spots had increased in numbers. Roughly 1/3 of the lotus was tainted purple. Witchcraft spell. Yu Shangrong looked at the golden lotus with a frown. However, the frown disappeared quickly. He was neither afraid, nervous, or worried. He sighed and shook his head. I've been careless. The scenes of his battle with Zhang Yuenshen surfaced in his mind again. The only instance his golden lotus was exposed to a spell was during his final attack where he had used his sword, avatar, and golden lotus to crush the tentacles. He tried to determine the time. In half a month, 1/3 of his golden lotus was tainted. In other words, he had another month left before his golden lotus would be completely tainted by the spell. If it came to that, there would be no saving his life. He moved his hand. The 100 Tribulations Insight avatar vanished. He continued flying ahead to the center of the plane. His expression was calm as he swung his arm and shot into the sky. Whiz! His avatar reappeared. His 100-foot-tall avatar released a blast of hot air. Although 1/3 of his golden lotus was tainted purple, he was still able to release this terrifying burst of power. With this surge of power, the snow around him melted away rapidly and the moisture evaporated. In just a short time, the snow within several thousand meters of him was melted by his primal chi. With the snow gone, the original appearance of the land was exposed. Stalks of melilot could be seen. They grew resilient despite the wind and the snow. 2 fallen stone statues could be seen at the entrance where Yu Shangrong passed by. It seemed to be that of tigers. Due to the damage, only half of their bodies were left. The trees and grass covered the ground. Apart from the melilots, there were almost no buildings in sight. Everything from the past seemed to be buried deeply. A pack of wolves howled nearby. The birds seemed to be affected by the avatar, and they fled. The low-rank beasts felt Yu Shangrong's presence and did not dare to approach him. Yu Shangrong shook his head. With the passage of time, things might remain, but the people have changed. At this moment, Yu Shangrong saw a pack of wild wolves standing at the top of a mountain as they stared at him. They aren't afraid. Interesting. Yu Shangrong smiled. He dove toward the wolves. Although they were average of wild wolves in the cultivation world, they were not beasts that their counterparts near human settlements could compare to. These wild wolves seemed to be emitting a faint primal chi. In terms of speed, they were much faster than ordinary wolves. When the wild wolves saw Yu Shangrong diving toward them, they turned tail and sprinted toward the distance. Yu Shangrong's body was practically parallel to the ground as he flew. His energy formed a barrier around himself. He passed by a valley and a patch of forest. Finally, the pack of wolves came to halt under a mountain peak. It was a 90-degree cliff that was covered with snow. The pack of wolves howled as they sat on their hindquarters on the snow. They looked at Yu Shangrong, who was hovering in the air. Yu Shangrong chuckled and said, "Is this where you wanted to bring me to?" The wolves howled as though they were responding to Yu Shangrong. "All right, I'll take that as a yes." The pack of wolves howled again. Thank you for showing the way. We'll meet again in the future." The wolf pack turned around and left, led by the alpha wolf. Yu Shangrong looked at the cliff wall before he slammed one hand against it. Boom! His energy landed on the cliff face, causing the snow to slide off. The original appearance of the cliff face was revealed in just an instant. A stone door. Yu Shangrong was slightly surprised. He walked closer and saw 3 huge words on the rock face: the Melilot Graveyard. The Melilot Graveyard. Although Yu Shangrong was strong mentally and spiritually, he could not help but feel shaken when he saw these words. He, naturally, knew what these words meant. With fuzzy memories as guidance, He raised his right hand and flicked 2 fingers. A drop of blood shot from the tip of his index finger toward the cliff face. Splat! The veins engraved on the cliff face shone. The light spread from the spot where the drop of blood landed into the surroundings. With this, Yu Shangrong was certain this was indeed a graveyard left behind by the nobleman. Whoosh! The rock door slid open. Yu Shangrong walked into the graveyard without hesitation. The moment he entered the Melilot graveyard, whoosh! The rock door shut swiftly. He found himself in a dimly lit environment. However, he seemed unafraid and kept his eyes trained up ahead. The scene that greeted his eyes shocked him slightly. Piles of white bones lay on the floor in neat formations. The Melilot bloomed in the day and withered at night. The inhabitants rather stay and hide in a utopia until they die. Yu Shangrong walked further into the graveyard. When he was in the innermost section, there were finally no bones to be seen. At the center of the graveyard was a round dais. He looked up but saw nothing apart from a script that was carved on the rock wall. It was the word, longevity. Yu Shangrong shook his head. The short-lived noblemen never gave up in their pursuit of a long life. However, reality was often harsh. On average, noblemen who did not cultivate could only live up to 30 or 40 years. At most, if they cultivated, they would be able to prolong their lifespan slightly. Even an 8-leaf expert such as Yu Shangrong could only add 500 years to his own life with the help of the longevity sword. In the cultivation world, it was the survival of the fittest. Without sufficient time to cultivate, how could they even think of becoming powerful? This was a vicious cycle in the long run. Each generation was worse than the one that preceded them. The demise of the nobleman country was inevitable. Yu Shangrong was a member of the new generation who did not give up nor submit to his fate. The Evil Sky Pavilion, Golden Court Mountain. Night was starting to descend on the lands. A black carriage pulled by 2 figures flew just above the tops of the trees. The black mass of bodies was approaching Golden Court Mountain. Stop! The black figure's deep voice rang from above the black carriage and spread into the surroundings. The masses of bodies obeyed his order strictly as they stopped moving instantly. He glanced at the crowd below and spoke casually. Hengchu Branch's Grand Elder, Zhang Jin. Thud, thud. One of the figures on the ground turned around slowly and faced the black carriage. His eyes were lifeless, his face stiff. A scar could be seen on his neck. Ba Ma produced a talisman, drew a few strokes on it with his hand, and tossed it out. The talisman stuck on Zhang Jin's body. Go, Zhang Jin replied mechanically. Understood. Then, like a rabid dog, he sprinted toward Golden Court Mountain. The current Golden Court Mountain was no longer protected by a barrier. These newcomers were, naturally, not hindered. Zhang Jin had been Hengchu Branch's Grand Elder when he was still alive. He had a 6-leaf cultivation base. In no time at all, he had arrived at the foot of the Golden Court Mountain. He looked up indifferently before he continued to sprint up the mountain, stirring up a gust of wind as he moved. Who dares trespass upon Golden Court Mountain? Zhou Jifeng flew past on his sword. He glanced at the intruder and was frightened. He had never seen such a peculiar person. Zhang Jin did not reply as he continued sprinting. Zhou Jifeng attacked from the skies. Several energy blades shot toward Zhang Jin. Bang! 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 The energy blades could not even pierce Zhang Jin's tough body. What? Zhou Jifeng realized that this was not a monster that he could kill. He hastily flew back to the pavilion on his sword as Zhang Jin continued sprinting up. Zhou Jifeng was flying on his sword so his speed would be greater than Zhang Jin, who was running on foot no matter what. When he arrived outside the Evil Sky Pavilion, he saw Ming Shi Yin and Duan Musheng pulling at each other. He quickly landed and cried out, "This is bad, Mr. Third, Mr. Fourth. A monster is charging up the mountain." A monster? Ming Shi Yin frowned. He suddenly recalled his master's word about Ba Ma trying to take the Evil Sky Pavilion down. He had expected some elaborate and intricate plan. He did not expect Ba Ma was such a rash person who would recklessly launch a frontal assault. "I'll report this to Master. Third senior brother, you should go have a look." "All right." Duan Musheng raised his overlord spear and glanced at Zhou Jifeng before saying, "Inform the others about this. I'll go have a look." Understood. The 3 of them parted. Duan Musheng's expression was solemn. He held the Overlord's spear with a backhanded grip as he charged down the mountain. He was barely halfway down when he saw Zhang Jin sprinting up. Zhang Jin's face was pale, clearly devoid of blood. His body was riddled with wounds as well. Duan Musheng could tell something was wrong and did not hesitate to brandish his Overlord's spear and stab at Zhang Jin. He dove slightly as up to 100 spear shadows that were shrouded with energy stabbed at Zhang Jin's face at lightning speed. Boom, boom, boom. The spear shadows stabbed Zhang Jin's chest, causing sparks to fly. He's tough. Duan Musheng was alarmed. However, he was not afraid. Energy surged out of his body as he continued with a barrage of attacks. Boom, boom, boom. The fruit of his training under the waterfall was displayed at this moment. His attacks were accurate every single time. Zhang Jin retreated before he finally reeled back. The Overlord spear's attack was fierce. Clang! Duan Musheng resembled a mountain god at this moment. He stood on the steps with his Overlord spear in one hand as he looked at the reeling Zhang Jin. Zhang Jin rolled down the steps. When he was a distance away, he came to a top and rose to his feet again. Stand down, an imposing voice said at this moment. Duan Musheng looked behind him. He saw his master riding Wizard's back. Little Yuan, Ming Shi Yin, Xiao Yue, and the Old Age Pavilion's Leng Luo, Pan Lishan, and Hua Wudao appeared in the air as well. All of them were looking at the scene. Lu Zhou looked at Zhang Jing with a frown. Hengchu Branch's Grand Elder, Zhang Jin, Ming Shi Yin asked, wasn't he killed by second senior brother? A dead man. Many female disciples at the back grew fearful at this. That's a dead man. The young female disciples had limited knowledge about the matters of the world. It was only natural for them to be frightened by this scene. Leng Luo, Pan Lishan, and Hua Wudao thought about witchcraft at once when they saw the scene. Pan Lishan laughed. It's been a long time since I've witnessed such a witchcraft spell. Pan Zheng, bring Buddhist Master Zhu Jing here. Pan Zheng cupped his fists and flew toward the northern pavilion immediately. At this moment, the talisman on Zhang Jin's body fell off. Crackle! The talisman ignited. However, the flames were peculiar. It formed a purple circle in the air. A voice rang from the circle. Yu Shangrong has been afflicted by my spell. His days are numbered. If you're powerful enough, I challenge you to a battle beyond this mountain. As soon as the voice stopped, the purple circle vanished. Leng Luo said as he hovered in the air. A voice projection talisman. He can control a corpse as well. This person's witchcraft is complicated. He shouldn't be underestimated. Pan Lishan said. Didn't you hear him? He's confident that Mr. Second is going to die. How I'd love to spit on his face right now. Do it, then, Leng Luo said provocatively. I might just do that. Pan Lishan said. His voice had barely faded as he dove toward Zhang Jin, shrouded in a golden light. His gourd bottle shone with a golden light as well as it circled him. As expected of the Clarity Sect's greatest expert. I mean, as expected of the only geezer with a heaven-grade weapon in the Old Age Pavilion. Ming Shi Yin praised. Pan Lishan moved swiftly as he dove down. He wielded his gourd bottle with a hand as a fan-shaped energy shot out from the gourd bottle. Boom! Zhang Jin remained expressionless as he reeled from the attack. After sending his target flying, Pan Lishan frowned slightly. The corpse has been fortified by witchcraft. The culprit is a witchcraft genius. Alright. Hua Wudao nodded. In terms of strength, this person is definitely more powerful than an 8-leaf cultivator. Yet, the biggest shortcoming of witchcraft is that it needs a long preparation time. If I may say so, I have a suggestion. What is it? Ming Shi Yin asked. Let's get on the flying chariot and keep flying for 10 days or a fortnight. The spell will disintegrate once he reaches his limit. Hua Wudao felt that his suggestion was extremely logical and satisfactory. This was a countermeasure that took advantage of witchcraft's shortcomings. If their opponent wanted to throw a net, all they had to do was avoid it. However, he felt that the looks that were directed at him were rather strange. Did I say something wrong? After Zhang Jin landed, his chest had caved in at the spot where he was hit by the gourd bottle. Even so, he rose to his feet expressionlessly. It's nothing but a tough puppet. I'll show you. Pan Lishan walked on air again. Don't be hasty. Look at what's beyond the mountain. Leng Luo said. The others looked. Under the cover of night, A huge crowd was slowly making their way toward them, emitting a strange aura. So many of them, Zhu Honggong exclaimed in surprise. Good heavens, Master, I think that we should consider Elder Hua's suggestion. You wimp, grow a backbone, will you? Ming Shiyin pushed Zhu Honggong aside. At this moment, Buddhist Master Zhu Jing led dozens of his disciples in the air toward them. They formed a neat square formation. Amitabha, finally, I have the opportunity to repay you. Benefactor Ji. Zhu Jing looked at the horde of puppets at the foot of the mountain. I've told my other disciples to hurry over. Nice one, old monk, Zhu Honggong said with a smile. All in a day's work. Lu Zhou looked at the puppets below who seemed to be as numerous as ants and said. Hua Yuxing. Hua Yuxing stepped forward from her position at the back. She bowed and said, I'm here. The skies are your territory. You have the falling moon bow. Do your best and try to take out the spellcaster if you can. Lu Zhou flew higher on Wizard. A higher altitude would provide him with a better vantage point. Hua Yuxing understood what Lu Zhou meant, and she followed him. Lu Zhou glanced at the situation before flying downward. Hua Yuxing leaned forward and looked down at her surroundings as well. She raised the falling moon bow and pulled on the bowstring. Whiz! With a whistle, the arrow sailed through the air. It was especially dazzling in the dark of night. Bam! The arrow hit a puppet on the ground. The puppet fell with a thud, but it quickly got back onto its feet. I have to take out the spellcaster. These puppets are dead. They'll only rise back up no matter how I attack. The others understood this as well. Any intelligent witchcraft cultivator would hide and control his puppets from afar. Who knew where the spellcaster was right now? Lu Zhou swept his gaze across the forest and said, Elder Hua, defend the evil sky pavilion. Understood. Hua Woodal was not suited for attacks. Naturally, he was happy to be in charge of protecting their home base. Ming Shiyin said, Master, why are their bodies so tough? Lu Zhou replied, the spellcaster has absorbed vast amounts of life energy and created a blood pool where their bodies were soaked and refined. However, this technique is extremely evil in nature. The more puppets under his control, the greater the backlash would be for the spellcaster. Leng Luo added, he'll lose at least 200 years of his life. I'm enlightened, Ming Shiyin said. Who cares if they're tough? I'll kill them as they come. Duan Musheng tightened his grip on the Overlord's spear tightly as his energy circled him. Master, I wish to fight. Lu Zhou nodded, approved. With him here, these disciples would not be in danger. If only Ba Ma showed his face, he would be able to take Ba Ma out with a deadly strike card. All that would be left after that was to clean up the battlefield. Now that Duan Musheng had been granted permission by his master, he seemed to be filled with vigor. He began his assault by summoning his 100 Tribulations Insight avatar. Along with his 40-foot-tall avatar, he leaped off the mountain. Third senior brother is as fierce as ever. Ming Shiyin was slightly speechless by this display. This was the reason why he was reluctant to spar with Duan Musheng. Who can stand being stabbed at every day? Duan Musheng leaped down. His 100 Tribulations Insight avatar crashed down like a cannonball. Boom! A round pit left behind by the impact of the golden lotus appeared before everyone's eyes. Several puppets were slammed into the ground. Scorching field 100 strikes. 1,000 waves. Hua Woodal, who had rushed back, could not help but cough and feel like vomiting when he witnessed this scene. He sighed inwardly. I can't help but feel anxious for every single day that I have to spend in the Evil Sky Pavilion. He glanced at Hua Yuxing, who was above the Evil Sky Pavilion. She would fire a few arrows to repel the puppets every once in a while. His mood improved when he looked at her. Meanwhile, Zhang Jin, the Grand Elder of the Hengchu branch, rose to his feet and charged out again. He was merely one of many puppets. The puppets felt no pain, fear, or death. Pan Lishan frowned. His wine gourd burst with a golden radiance once more as he tossed it out at the puppets. Little Yuanair, Zhao Yue, Ming Shiyin, and Zhu Honggong leaped down Golden Court Mountain as well. For a time, there was a chaotic mess of energy. The area within several hundred meters of the mountain was tumultuous. Energy flew everywhere. Lu Zhou tapped Wizard's back with the tips of his toes. He stepped into the air as Wizard seemed to vanish into thin air. A mount like Wizard that was accompanied by auspicious chi was too conspicuous. it would easily be discovered. Therefore, it was replaced by the more inconspicuous Bayan. Lu Zhou traveled toward a boulder halfway up the mountain on Bayan's back. He observed the situation from the shadows. The others nodded when they saw the pavilion master disappear. These were just a bunch of puppets. Indeed, the pavilion master did not need to trouble himself with this. Unbeknownst to them, Lu Zhou was silently cheering his disciples on from Bayan's back. I'm helpless as well. With my cultivation base, the only thing I can do is to wave a flag and shout. Lu Zhou muttered to himself as he observed the battle below. He's willing to give up 200 years of his life just to take down the evil sky pavilion. Zhang Yuanshan had been an 8-leaf cultivator when he was alive. This meant Ba Ma was not weak. Was it possible that Yu Shangrong was held hostage by Ba Ma after Yu Shangrong had killed Zhang Yuanshan? Lu Zhou did not think it entirely impossible. Meanwhile, Pan Lishan repelled Zhang Jin once more as he muttered under his breath. He's unbelievably tough. Leng Luo unleashed his Dao invisibility skill on Zhang Jin. He launched a barrage of attacks. Several palm seals struck Zhang Jin's body. Then, he said, "Old Pan, hit him on the back of his head." "All right, I'll listen to you just this once." With Leng Luo's cooperation, Pan Lishan let out a burst of energy. His wine gourd spun as it shot out. It grew in size and shone with a golden radiance. He cried out, "Sleeping on the mountains." Bam! Pan Lishan's wine gourd hit Zhang Jin on the back of his head. Crack! The crisp sound of something cracking rang in the air. The puppet Zhang Jin flailed his arms and seemed to be in a frenzy. However, soon after, he felt backward, seemingly at his last breath. "What do you think about my sleeping on the mountains?" Pan Lishan asked. Leng Luo asked skeptically, "Is there such a technique in the Clarity sect?" "I improvised," Pan Lishan shamelessly replied. Leng Luo moved swiftly. He vanished from sight and shot down the mountain like a specter. "Isn't that a cool name?" Pan Lishan leaped down and ran after him. Leng Luo moved to Duan Musheng and the others and said, "Aim for the back of their heads." As expected of Elder Leng. "You're so knowledgeable," Ming Shi Yin said politely before he moved at lightning speed. He gripped the separation hook tightly and charged into the horde of puppets. Bam! 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 Finally, the puppets were falling. From her position above the evil sky pavilion, Hua Yuxing began to aim for the backs of the puppets' heads with her energy arrows. However, it was rather difficult for her to land a shot since she had to wait for the puppets' backs to face her before she could even take aim. Even then, she managed to take down a few puppets. Meanwhile, on the boulder, Lu Zhou sighed. The puppets were dead people. As expected, he was not rewarded with any merit points from killing them. He was beginning to dislike witchcraft. At this moment, Lu Zhou saw Buddhist Master Zhu Jing walking in the air above the horde of puppets. A few dozens of disciples stood behind him. Amitabha, the body tree isn't a tree. The clear mirror isn't a mirror. Zhu Jing and his disciples opened their mouths and chanted in unison. In just an instant, the chants buzzed in the air. The grand enhancing Buddhist technique. The bright mirror. With Zhu Jing led the other monks to chant. A huge circle spread out and shone brightly as it spun. Then, it dropped down slowly. Lu Zhou had seen Wu Nian use this skill on the Lotus Dais previously. He did not expect its power and range would increase so dramatically when so many monks worked together. When the circle of light descended on the ground, the light would flash as the monks chanted. Lu Zhou stroked his beard and nodded. Although Jiang Aijian was lazy and carefree, he could still offer up good suggestions sometimes. With this battle, Zhu Jing and his monks' values had risen. After all, it would have been more difficult if Zhu Jing and his disciples were not around. The people who were battling below were all elites of Evil Sky Pavilion. Leng Luo, Pan Lishan, Little Yuanair, Duan Musheng, Ming Shi Yin, Xiao Yue, Zhu Honggong surged with energies after being boosted by the bright mirror. Soon after, the foot of the mountain was filled with emerging avatars. As the battle continued, a shining monk could be seen hovering at a corner. ... Meanwhile, Ba Ma frowned upon seeing this. A Buddhist sect. He saw his charging puppets fall as they engaged the powerful opponents. Although he remained expressionless, his fists were tightly clenched. He waved his right hand. "Old villain, I don't think that you'll be willing to watch them drown in a sea of corpses." A purple radiant circle flew toward the monk who pulled on his black carriage. The monk's eyes snapped open, and he stared at the sky blankly. Kong Yuan, go, they're all your enemies, let your hatred run wild. Kong Yun was dead, but he seemed to understand Ba Ma's words. His eyes widened. Boom! With lightning-fast movements, he left Ba Ma's witchcraft circle and charged toward the square formation of Zhu Jing and his monks. Black palm seals appeared in the air. Look out! Hu Yuxing cried out, projecting her voice. She fired 3 consecutive shots at Kong Yuan. Bam! 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 Her energy arrows struck the black palm seals, and they vanished. Meanwhile, Lu Zhou frowned slightly when he saw this. An 8-leaf puppet. He's really going all out. Witchcraft was never pleasant. The higher the level of the puppet Ba Ma controlled, the higher the price he would have to pay. Lu Zhou remembered the withering plants that seemed to have increased lately, borrowing life from the heavens. At the same time, Zhu Jing chanted, and a ward mudra appeared. He activated his Buddha golden body. Whiz! Boom! Kong Yuan's black palm seals collided with the golden body and the ward mudra. Their energies caused turbulence in the air. Zhu Jing's disciples retreated. Hold your positions. Do not separate. Kong Yuan reeled from the backlash. Pan Lishan shot toward Kong Yuan with movements like a swallow. I'll be your opponent. Although he had not completely recovered his cultivation base, he was still once an 8-leaf cultivator. It was only fair for an 8-leaf cultivator to fight another 8-leaf cultivator. With his wine gourd, it should not be a problem for him to hold Kong Yuan off. Kong Yuan's primal chi would run out sooner or later. Lu Zhou looked at the numbers of the remaining puppets. Even with his disciples' effort, their number was only reduced by 1/3. He thought about it for a moment before he moved his arm and said, Zhu Jing, catch! Before Zhu Jing could determine what it was, he caught the item that sailed toward him. When he saw the item in his hand, he said, prayer beads. They're Buddhist prayer beads. It once belonged to Kong Yuan. Although it has already acknowledged an owner, it's still better than nothing. When Zhu Jing heard this, he was overjoyed. I don't dare to receive any more of your goodwill. Benefactor Ji. In Lu Zhou's eyes, that was a rubbish weapon. Not only was it useless to him, but it even had to be refined for it to acknowledge a new owner. On the contrary, Zhu Jing treated it like a treasure. There was no way he would not feel excited by it.